times, there's a lot. Are we on now?
Yeah, we're live.
There's a lot of very successful people you never hear of. So a lot of times success with these types of projects come down to sometimes just sheer luck. You're in the right place at the right time and certain things just click.
Right.
It's no indication of how good you are at something. That's why you just don't stop and you keep doing it. Now, the point being is you talked about how you've been in this podcast game. I told you coming in here. How many people commented on you as much as they commented on me? Saying how much they liked you as an interviewer. I don't know if they were saying you were Dick Cavett or Phil Donahue. That's a 80s reference.
The mic in the face.
Yeah, well, that's what Donnie used to do. He would be like, he'd go like this, and then he'd take the mic and he'd go like that. And that was Donahue's move. The point being is one time I saw a seminar by Lee Haney. Lee Haney is one of the greatest bodybuilders of all time.
Yeah, I've heard of Lee Haney.
Yeah, and Lee Haney's working out, and he's talking to this young guy, and this young guy's, he just showed the guy to do a lat pull down. The young guy's doing really crummy form. And because he wasn't too heavy.
Right.
And Haney got him to slow down, feel the lats, not the arms. And he looked at the kid and he said, look, it took me, as a genetically gifted guy, a couple years to figure this out, maybe like 5-10 years to really get to at 9. And where are we hearing this again? To get to 90% of my ability. And then it took the next 10 to 20 years to really fine tune the package to a world-class level. To a world-class level. Not, most people would have just walked away after the first 5-10 years of development. The point being is Haney said to the kid, I thought it was so perfect. He said, he didn't yell at him. He didn't say you got to be patient, which I don't like that word. He said, you have to show some humility. I am one of the most genetically gifted guys ever walking a bodybuilding stage. And it still took me several years to figure this out. It still took me about 5 years to make most of my progress. And then it took me the last 10 to 15 to really fine tune it down to the point where you see where I am now. So the idea that in a year or two, you're going to be lat pulling down 300 pounds, it's not a matter of patience. It's not even a lack of knowledge. It's a lack of humility. You do not understand how long it takes to get good at something.
Right.
And if you think you're going to jump into something like Rodney Dangerfield said, if you think you're going to start at the top and work sideways, that to me isn't arrogance. That isn't even ignorance. It's just a lack of humility because everything in life, I don't understand anything about music. I know diamonds have flaws, but I don't know everything that went into that song. The song's on my iPod right now, right?
I love that, man.
So I don't know anything about music. I don't know anything about tennis. I don't know anything about physics, but I can respect that every person in those fields took a long time to get to the level of expertise that they're at. Yeah. Whether I know something about the field or not, I know that is universal about expertise. So the same thing goes for your body and even your own diet. One of the things someone had said to me, he said, if I could teach you one thing, it's that every time you get knocked down on your diet, you get back up. That's the most important thing because this is a learning process.
Yeah.
Once you accept that calories matter and you run with that, then all this thing comes down to is figuring out how you make your little idiosyncrasies fit into the overall picture of you need to burn off more energy than you take in.
Right. Even something like that.
Right. It's a universal principle. So expertise is the same way. It's a lack of humility to think you're going to go into a field and all of a sudden in a year, 2 years, 6 months, 5 videos, you're going to be doing things at the level of people who have been dedicating their whole life to.
What do you mean a lack of humility? Dumb it down for people.
Okay, so lack of humility, if you're humble enough to know that you are not God, if you're a human being, and you understand that you are not perfect, and you understand that everything at a high enough level takes a process, a degree of luck. The people who pound their chest and say, this is all me, I pulled myself up on my bootstraps. That's also a lack of humility. Because even the most talented, hardworking people, a lot of times, all the time should understand, is that even then, certain things got to go right at certain times. Yeah. I'm sure if Bill Gates was born 500 years ago, he would have had no impact on the world because he was born before the world of personal computers. If he was born 3 or 4 decades earlier, he would have had less of an impact. And if he's born 3 or 4 decades later, he would just been another nerdy computer programmer.
Right. Perfect timing.
Actually, right. So that's another factor that comes down to it is any form of success, you have to have a certain degree of humility. And one of the things with diet is, all right, we have this general rule. We burn off more energy for weight loss than we take in. We need to gain weight. We need to take in slightly more energy than we need to burn off. You don't need to take in mega thousands of calories. It takes a degree of humility and understanding to know it's all about how then you fit that into the individual and who that individual is. And that's humility. You know what I'm saying? It takes time to figure these things out.
So getting humility takes experience too.
Well, damn, this is why your podcast should have more views because that's very deep. I think life will teach you humility.
Yeah.
That every time you think you have things figured out, it all comes crashing down around you. I can't tell you how many times I've looked at a certain schedule on a certain week. I'm like, oh, I'm going to get this many sessions. I'm going to have this many sessions a month. I'm going to do so much better than last year. And then reality hits. Kids graduate from college. People go away. It's vacation. I was looking at May this month, and I was like, wow, May's number's really low. If I really do things, I'm going to blow last year away. And then I realized, oh, that's why May's number is low. Because kids are graduating from college. People are going away. Things that are outside my control.
That teaches you humility.
And that's life, right? You get knocked down enough times, and every time, you know what the most dangerous thing is? Not when you think you're doing everything wrong, when you think you're doing everything right. Because then all of a sudden, you know what life does? It comes on, it sticks its iron boot straight up your you-know-what. So I don't get too philosophical here, but that's a big part of it. And I always try to get my conscience, you are a learning process when it comes to diet. Here's another thing. Dieting is very bizarre. When it comes to dieting, weight loss, exercise, unlike everything in the world, the big picture is incredibly simple. It's when you get to the individual, things get incredibly complex. And let me explain. Let me unpack that, as the academics would say.
Please.
You look at a national economy.
Okay.
The national economy is incredibly complex. There's a reason why communism only works for ants, is because the market is so complex. It would be hard for a central agency to tell everyone what everything is going to cost at any given minute of the day. And while the market doesn't always get that right, the Kardashians, what the heck's that all about? Market. It does better than any other thing we've ever come up with.
Yeah.
So the market is a very complex thing globally. But locally, it's like, all right, you want to make more money, you want to have better savings, spend less money. Spend less money than you make. Boom, done, easy, right?
Invest it, don't touch it.
Right. It's very simplistic to manage a family of four, as I understand, as complex personal finance can be. It's much more complex to run a country than it is a household, as tough as running a household is. Exercise is weird. Weight loss is weird. It's the exact opposite. The global rule is about as simple as it's going to get. Where people screw up, where it becomes complex, where you hear the vegans, the vegetarians, the meat-only people, the high-protein people, the high-fiber people, the people, whatever they're going to be. Where they screw up is they don't understand is they're trying to simplify something that cannot be simplified to the individual. It's the individual is what the complexity is. And we've talked about this, my hatred for cooking, the Devin Peterson quote of, they tell me they have a simple recipe and all of a sudden they pull out the knife and the onion. And I'm like, whoa, you just lost me there.
Too much.
It's too much.
Yeah.
So that's the hard part that I really want people to get down is how understand the simplicity and then break it down to the complexity as you and understand that's a learning process. You have to learn what foods you like. You have to learn your level of preparation. You have to learn that when you're traveling, this is the way you eat.
Right.
If you're a traveling business person, that's a whole level of education. That's a whole nother master's degree in you have to develop in order to understand calories and calories out when you're on the road.
But that's comforting to the average listener to know that as a macro, it's more simple when it comes to diet and exercise. But when you put your head on the pillow and I'm dealing with me and only me at night, that's when it gets complex.
Right. And I think that's why we had such a positive response to our last interview together.
For sure.
Is because, yes, things get very complicated on the individual level. What people should stop doing is complicating the broad picture. Because then all of a sudden that puts us on a shaky foundation. It's already hard enough to figure out how you as an individual fit into that very clear statement.
Yeah.
And that's where people screw up. A lot of times they mean well. They find what works for them. So they've gone from that complexity of calories and calorie out, and they found out, oh, cool, intermittent fasting. Oh, cool, veganism. Oh, cool,
Newman's pizzas aren't so bad.
Yeah, aren't so bad. What's the one that's hot now? The liquid diet that's on Facebook.
Juice cleanse?
That's not juice cleanse. It's Optavia, whatever it is, right? So they're like, oh, cool, Optavia. And what they don't understand is that's how they figured out diet works for them and their individual idiosyncrasies.
Yeah.
Where they screw up is when they try to complexify stuff. We'll get deep here. I see nothing wrong with your chosen religion. I think Catholicism is wonderful. Why did I convert to Judaism? Because I am a different individual. I've told you, I like to argue, I like to complain, and I don't suffer in silence. Three things that don't necessarily work very well for me as a Catholic. For in Judaism, they're like, oh my God, you fit right in here. And I know it's a joke and I'm being funny, blah, blah, blah.
Square peg in a square hole, fit for you.
Right, but both pegs at some point fit in some hole. Just because Judaism works well for me, it does not mean it's the only way to be and that it doesn't work well for you. Both the religions on their surface or maybe not always interpreted the right way, but both religions on the surface are teaching you how to be less of a dirtbag.
Yes.
Right? Write about this in the 10% solution. It's one of the biggest moments I ever found was it's not, once you have the basic system in place, it's about the idiosyncrasies that help you come down to being a decent human being. You got that guy on your wall over there, right?
Yeah, Christ,
right?
Jesus.
Every religion, basically, in a way, is trying to say, hey, how do you be more like him?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's, and I understand some people are like, oh, you're trying to convert me. I'm not. First of all, I'm Jewish. I'm not converting anybody to anything. I'm just trying to say that there is your archetype.
There's an ideal.
Right. There's the archetype.
Yeah.
Why is it an archetype? You can't go past that.
Yes.
Right. So the idea is you're always trying to strive towards that archetype.
Yeah.
Don't make that too complex. Try to understand how you as an individual can feed up. And I'm sure every Catholic, every day of their life, battles with that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's all. But
that's
yes.
a great point, though, that I want to drive home.
Mm-hmm.
Like religion, like exercise, like all these plans,
Right.
the idiosyncrasies and the details are what start to confuse people, but it's those same details and idiosyncrasies that make you different from everyone else.
Right.
So you have to recognize what makes you different. You have to recognize what works for you. And then you have to stop wondering if that's right or wrong because you can't measure right or wrong because we're all so different.
Right. And that's where the humility comes in. The humility of understanding that it is a process. Like, for example, I'm wearing this shirt out of an act of humility. When Ryan Janney came in here in the last interview and dominated it shirtless, I'm like, look, I can't do that. I'm not Ryan Janney. I'm not going to be able to do this shirt. I literally have one in the oven. Right?
One in the oven,
right.
man.
So what I did was say, all right, I got to be humble here. I can't out Janny the Janny. I can't out Snow the Snowman.
That's
What
tough.
am I going to do? So I'll do the exact opposite. If Janny has no shirt, I'll go extra shirt. And I'll wear my homage to Steve Gutenberg in Police Academy 1. All right, so this is the shirt
That's where that's from?
This isn't his actual shirt because I probably have to pay like $10 million for it. But this is a copy of it off of like Etsy or something like that. And it's his one in the oven. If you watch the beginning part of Police Academy, when he first gets there, he has this shirt on. It's just, you can't out, right? So that's a perfect example of humility. And I love the shirt, and it's me, and
it's you.
And it's a metaphor, so it's that's
and
all.
it's like, how do I shankify this whole
Right. How do I? But that's a key word.
You.
How do I shankify it?
Ryan Janney can't shankify. Ryan Janney could janify.
Janney can janify.
Right.
And Frio can friofy.
Like a friofy.
That actually sounds like a new type of corn chip. Friofy.
Friofy.
That's
Cheddar friofries.
Cheddar friofries.
Jalapeno friofries.
That's right. Taco Bell introduces ding ding Frio fries.
Frio fries.
That's part of the humility of understanding that. I talk all the time. I love Joe Smeck to death.
Yeah.
Joe Smeck is driven in a different way than I am. How do I know? Because for 23 years I've been a personal trainer, and Joe Smeck's been a personal trainer for how long now? He owns his own gym.
Yep.
Right.
Own spot.
Right. Because that's the way Joe is wired. That's what Joe wants to do.
Go.
Whereas I am, it's the belief that I don't know if I'm interpreting this right or wrong, but like the Peter principle. There's only so far you can go with something, and all of a sudden you start trying to go somewhere else with it, and that's where you fall flat on your face. My skill set, my desires, my intelligence, my abilities are different from Joe's.
Are you supposed to go down a different path, or are you maybe supposed to try the same path, get to a certain point, and say we're different?
I'm gonna get a little chesty here for a second.
Please.
I'm gonna kind of but you have to be a hypocrite every now and then.
You have to
kind of bring yourself back down to humanity.
It only makes sense.
I'm gonna get a little chesty and say I'm a damn good personal trainer. I'm a horrible manager of people. I understand that. So what am I going to do for the rest of my life? I'm going to be a damn good personal trainer. I can write. Am I Ernest Hemingway? No. Am I John Irving? No. I've read plenty of John Irving. I'm not John Irving. But the reality is I can write in a way that is reflective of me and that's interesting and exciting. I'm going to be the best personal trainer and the best writer I can be. And
you're going to be good at both.
Yeah, and Joe, and I'm never going to touch personal training managing because I know that's not what I'm good at.
Gotcha.
And I'm not going to hate on or envy other people who are good at things that I'm not good at or I'm not wired to do.
How do you do that? Is that maturity?
Well, it wasn't always that way. I would have to answer the question is yes. The answer is yes. I think that's the only way I ever did it, was to figure out what I am and am not. And we talked about this last time with the whole going out into the rave and, the glow sticks and stuff like that. It's you learn more about who you are and what you are not, maybe more importantly, who you are not. I will never be the kind of person. I'll give you an example. It's a crazy example. I have a Muscle and Fitness magazine about this guy who was not Orthodox, but he was like a modern Orthodox Jew. And he was so disciplined from reading Talmud all the time and Torah all the time and his studying and praying so many hours a day that when he was a bodybuilder, he could eat boiled skinless chicken breasts 6 times a day and he would just be shredded. The hardest part for him was shaving his body hair off because it wasn't part of his culture, right? But he had this amazing level of discipline.
So it was more arduous to shave body hair.
Right, because in his culture, everyone was swarthy, right? That's just the way it was.
It was.
And bodybuilding wasn't necessarily something everyone did.
Right.
But in terms of discipline, this guy had discipline that was amazing.
Yeah.
You understand yourself, and you understand that there is no Uberman. I think that's a
Right.
Nietzsche thing. There's no perfect person. So you're this collection of strengths and weaknesses, idiosyncrasies and whatever, and that let's go back to diet. That goes back to whatever you get into. My strengths and weaknesses, I don't. If I see someone who's in the gym and they're working a floor shift and they don't put the weights away, go watch me on a floor shift. I look like the Energized Bunny on a Coke bender.
Yeah, you
right?
do.
It's like,
I've seen it in real life.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but I can't tolerate that. And the manager, a good manager of people, manages people. They don't beat them into submission or force them to do whatever they want to do. And they have a personality that is primarily geared towards other people. So that's something a guy like Joe does really well. That's something I'm not very good, but I'm good at other things.
Yes. A lot of other things.
Thank you. So that's what I'm going to emphasize. And it's the same thing. I hate cooking. Let's bring it back to diet. I hate cleaning. Why would I pick a diet that involves like the South Beach diet, which has like 40 pages of recipes in it with ingredients I won't go buy? So it's not that there's anything wrong with that diet. It's just not the right diet for me. And then all of a sudden, there's the broad category. Here's that upside down pyramid. What's not going to filter through? Think of it like a filter, right? Here's the broad category, and here's all the possible information that could work for you in a diet. Now what's going to happen is as you learn more about yourself, it's going to prune, and it's going to get narrower and narrower and narrower. And along the way, South Beach diet is going to go away. Around the way, the all-meat diet's going to go away. Around the way, the veganism is going to go away. And all of a sudden, you come to this fine point, and that fine point is white as shank. That's the diet that works best for my Cruickshank.
Do you have to try those to narrow them away?
I think there's 2 ways to do anything. You try and you talk to people you respect and who really understand you.
So you don't necessarily have to do the dirty work if people could give you wisdom?
I'll give you an example and I'll use a first name so I I'll use a first name. So I have a client, Richard, and he was talking to a son, it's one of his sons once. And he said something to me that just I've never forgot about. He said, his son was doing something stupid, I don't know. And he said to his son, don't do that. And his son's like, whatever the son's response was, I don't know. But he's like, look, I'm not telling you this to try and control your life. I'm not telling you this to mess with you. I'm not telling you this because I just think it's funny to boss you around. I'm telling you this because I was you. And I did what you did, and I fell flat on my face, and I want to help you not have to fall flat on your face and dig yourself out of the hole. I think I said, I don't know who I said this was last time, but I said something along the lines of, I had to be bigger and stronger when I was younger because I was so stupid. I needed the physical strength to dig myself out of the holes I got myself in. So you learn, I think the best place you can learn from is from your parents. A perfect little aside here. My father had 2 heart attacks, one that eventually killed him. He had gout, he had kidney stones, he had type 2 diabetes, he had all types of health issues.
Wow.
And I always saw myself as immune from that because I was me. I was a wrestler. I was a personal trainer. I was athletic. And then one day I was helping, maybe it was in my mid-20s, late 30s. No, I was mid-20s, maybe late 20s. I was helping my parents move out of this bungalow they were in while their house that they were building down in Forked River was getting finished. And as I'm carrying out this furniture, I start sinking into the ground. Like literally into the ground, like Tom Hanks in Money Pit when he falls through the rug and he starts constricting.
Oh, right.
I'll explain later. I'll put it in the show notes. And the only thing that saved me were my lats. I was in late 20s, big, thick upper back.
Still got big
and my lats, thank you. My lats literally were hovering me over this underground pit. What happened was there was a recessed water line or septic tank or something that was there. The ground had rotted out from underneath it and it formed basically a man-made sinkhole. And
you were sinking.
And my legs were hanging while my beefy lats were hanging me, keeping me up in the hole. Wow. So that was the only thing that kept me from falling down into the pit. Now the pit was only 10 feet deep. I would have got really dirty, but I would have died. The point being is I was filthy because my feet were going in this probably retired cesspool.
Right.
Which I don't think cesspools ever retire. They just get grosser.
They're always active.
They're always disgusting. So I go to my parents' house. I have no clothes. And all I had was this pair of cut off these jean shorts that dads wear, with these. My dad owned no socks that ended here. All my dad's socks like went up this high. He was like trapped in the 70s. I
love that.
And a pair of blue like sneaker loafers. You've ever seen those things? And a white Hanes undershirt. And I put the socks in the shoe, this ridiculous looking outfit for a 29-year-old guy. And there was a mirror on the floor because my parents were moving.
Right.
And I looked in the mirror and I saw these thick, hairy calves with the white socks and the shoes, the thick Scottish legs with the jean shorts. I'm like, oh my God, that's my dad. And then I realized after seeing myself in the bob, everything that got that guy is going to get me if I don't take care of myself. So again, another aspect of humility. I'm no better than my father. That what got him is going to get me if I don't intervene and do things instead.
Did you intervene up to that point?
And that's a lesson I learned from not from paying that price.
Right.
I didn't have to. This is going to be horrible. I did not have to die of the heart attack my father died of to understand that being above 200 pounds, whether it's muscle or not, really wasn't the best move for a guy who's 5'9". So you learn things the hard way or the easy way. You can learn things from observing people. The closer those people are to you genetically, like your dad and your mom, the more you can learn by observing them and listening to them. Listen to them because they will tell you things from their experience in the world. The world reacts to them the same way they reacted to you because you are them. That's one way you can avoid it.
But by the way, this incredible fact I can use, I learned yesterday.
What's that?
I think 50% of your DNA comes from your mom and dad. 25% of your DNA comes from your 4 grandparents. 12.5 comes from your great-grandparents.
That's fantastic.
6.25 come from your great-great-great-grandparents.
My toes are curling right now.
Yeah.
That's awesome, really.
Yeah.
I just thought it was like a 50-50 thing. Mom, dad, and the grandparents were SOL.
That's what
really?
Yeah, so like your great-grandparents, your great-great-grandparents have given you some of your DNA.
So there's a 6.5% chance that my great-grandfather was drinking Diet Sunkist orange soda back in the 1800s, but it didn't exist back then, so forget that.
Definitely. That's right.
So that's a way you can learn it.
You see, you learned it indirectly, but you were close to it, didn't have to fully experience it.
Right. I'll give you an example. I don't like to cook. I don't like to clean. So where do I learn my dietary information? I'm not going to be hanging out with Giada De Laurentiis to get...
Who's that?
You know what Giada De Laurentiis is? She's this famous chef woman on the Cooking Network.
She's good?
She's fantastic, but she's Giada De Laurentiis, and she's a chef.
Yeah.
And so she cooks these amazing meals that I would never cook.
Yeah, but Shah De Laurentiis would never be writing complex programs for a complex human to get better at life.
Right. So, but the point being is... That was really gross. Sorry. What I want. Hey, it's live, people.
It's live. That's what we do. No cuts, no edits.
Zero sugar.
If a case showed up at your house now, you'd be thrilled.
But there's a chef named Amanda Freytag who I only found by accident because she's a colleague of a client of mine's friends. And Amanda Freytag's, her phrase is, because she's Amanda Freytag, is AF, which stands for easy as you know what.
Yeah, exactly.
So the other night she was making a recipe and she was showing you how to properly boil an egg. Now, for decades, I've never been able to properly boil an egg. It has gotten to the point where I accepted the idea that the shell pieces I was eating were extra calcium for my diet. Amanda Freytag comes on here, shows you how to properly boil an egg. I go try it. No shell pieces for the first time in 46 years. Right? So I'm going to watch that. I'm going to learn from that because all of a sudden I see a chef who's no better or no worse than the other chef, but I understand who I am. So now all of a sudden I can filter, right? What was it again? It's about the broad topic. Every possible way you could cook to lose weight. And all of a sudden I start filtering it down. All of a sudden it's, well, maybe Giada is not good for me, so we're going to get her out of the way. She's not going to make it to the final cut. But Amanda Freytag and how she boils eggs, she made it through the filter. And now Amanda Freytag's egg boiling technique is a permanent part of my dietary lifestyle. Why? Because hard-boiled eggs are awesome. They're rich in protein, they're rich in fat, they're convenient, and they keep me satiated on less calories. That's an example of the process. Amanda Freytag's not my mama, right? And so, for example,
relative.
But not relative. But I can learn from her because I know myself, and so I'm going to gear myself towards chefs that provide easy, convenient options for foods that I like, and that's how you do it. You try and find other people like. That's why you're in the church you're in, and I'm in the synagogue I'm in, right? Because we found people of like-minded, right? And then we can learn and bounce off each other instead of putting a bunch of people who have absolutely nothing in common together.
But can you help this qualm in my mind? When I come across those people sometime, I want to take it for myself and say, how can I use it? How can it benefit me? And how can I run the show with this idea?
If you can.
Yeah.
But if, again, like Devin said, if someone pulls out that knife and that onion, you're very quickly beginning to realize that person's not going to make the cut.
Right.
Right. So you don't ever close your mind off to something.
Yeah.
You don't ever say, all right, that's never going to work. So you listen, and then you prune. And you say, all right, I'll listen to what you have to say, but it's not going to work for me, so I'm just going to move that off to the side. I think the danger you run into is once you start digging and you start not finding what's there and it doesn't apply to you, that's the point you got to move on. Sometimes it's a sunk cost fallacy.
Yes.
Sometimes-
Christian's in love with that fallacy.
Is he really?
He loves bringing it up because there's a lot of applications in real life.
Okay, but that's example is, all right, I've gone so far down this road, it's not working for me. Let me keep going down that road. No, at a certain point you realize, all right, the Giada Di Lorenzo's recipe does not fit for me. God, this
And
dog
you can
does kill me. Gosh.
And you got to turn around at some point.
Right. Yeah, you got to be aware enough to understand something's not working.
Yeah.
And move on with your life. That's why I did the whole chapter in the book. The 5th chapter of the book, so what Devin and I talked about yesterday, is move on with your life. You can apply that to dumbbells. I mean like literal dumbbells, but you can apply it to people too. I've never met a recreational fitness male, or let me say person with broad shoulders, because there are some people who have broad shoulders. We going on time?
We're good.
Okay.
I'll do the thing in like a minute or two.
Okay. Whoever got more recreational fitness benefit out of doing more than 50 to 70 pound dumbbells on the incline press. Do the people do it? Of course they do it, because there's certain goals that dictate the need for that.
More than 50 to 70.
Right.
Yeah.
And for smaller frame people, it could be 30 to 50. I've never met them more. So move on with your life. This is your goal. Your goal is recreational fitness. And now move on. Can you do other things? Yeah, but it's not applicable to your goal. It's not applicable to you. So my answer to that would be calm your mind. Get the qualm out of your mind.
Yeah.
And look at something honestly and say, does this really fit to me? And if it doesn't, then get rid of it. And it's not a reflection on it. It's a reflection on how it relates to you. And that doesn't make it right or wrong. It just makes it right or wrong for you. And once you do that, then all of a sudden you have a chance at surviving in the most obesogenic society in history. The broad picture is very, very simple. My geometry teacher would be very proud of me with all these triangles I'm making, right? The broad picture is very simple. There is no massive right or wrong. It's how do you get it to filter down towards who Jay Frio is, who his Mike is. And I think that's why people like this.
It's definitely one big reason. The other thing is your sensation.
Yes.
The theme of the first half of this has been synthesizing what works for who you are.
Yeah.
And learning what that is. Learning what that is a process.
I'll give you an example. Chuck Norris. I once learned martial arts from this guy who knew Chuck Norris fairly well. Said Chuck Norris is the nicest guy you could possibly imagine. And when Chuck Norris got divorced, he said Chuck Norris, all these jokes about Chuck Norris is superhuman. He said, Chuck Norris is about as human as a human being is going to be. Because when I remember seeing him after his divorce, the guy was literally crushed.
Yeah.
And Chuck Norris wrote this book once, and it made more understanding of me after I had met someone who knew him personally. And he talked about these people, they're ninjas in your life. They're secret assassins. And I think the example he gave in his book was him and his ex-wife, the divorce was going pretty well, and she was going to take her grandfather clock, and he was going to take this rug. That's not the exact example, but just work with me here. And one of her ninjas, her silent assassins in life said, well, that rug is worth about $5,000 more than that grandfather clock. You should get $5,000. Right? And here they are, separating this large amount of money. I could see if you were struggling for money, but the $5,000, the rug, who really cares at that point in that context? And which is another thing we should get into is people struggle with context and nuance. But it's you have these silent assassins in your life, and whether they
are they like haters?
So I know, because sometimes they're lovers and they just don't know what they're doing.
Okay.
There are some very well-meaning people out there that think everyone should intermittent fast.
Yeah.
Except they're so blinded by intermittent fasting. What they don't understand is some people wind up at the Chinese buffet or the old country buffet. Never the Warren buffet where they're saving money. It's always something where they're busting up calories, right?
It's gold.
So while they love you and they care for you, it's not. They're well-meaning. It doesn't mean that it's the right thing for you. I would. So
some people close to you or not, love you or don't, well-meaning
or not,
right, gives you advice,
right,
and maybe half the time it could work for you, half the time you could throw it out the window. But you have to learn to discern. Right. Should I take this advice?
Absolutely. It's not. They're not you. And so whether they're well-meaning or not, and trust me, there's a lot of people in the fitness industry that are trying to profit off of you. So that's another aspect you got to take into account. I don't know if every person who sells Optavia on Facebook really does believe it's the best thing for you to possibly do, or they're not going to reveal to you that it's part of a large pyramid in which they make a profit off of every food that you buy. Right? They don't tell you that part of it.
Right.
And if some of the Optavia people in this fan will say, no, Shank, it's I don't get any percentage of anything that food people buy, then I stand corrected. But the bottom line is somebody's profiting off of something, and that's a factor too.
Yeah.
People will lie to you. Or, again, it's always about context and nuance, and this is what drives me nuts. Some people are sheer profiteers and will tell you whatever they think you need to hear to buy their product, and some people really are crusaders.
How do you tell the difference? You have to just learn how to read people?
I think you got to be less concerned about them and more concerned about yourself. Ooh. You got to understand whether the information they're not is telling you what you want to hear or what you need to hear. And you have to say, how does this information apply to me? I am not going to eat prepackaged foods. I'm not going to drink those shakes. I'm not going to pay that amount of money for a food that's convenient. So that, therefore, it's not right for me. Anytime I see these before and after photos of someone who's overweight and then looks like a victim, right, holding it, I know there's more to the picture than that.
Right.
Sometimes I have personal information about the person. Sometimes I know that person was a stud athlete, an all-American football player, and all of a sudden they take a picture of him in the bathroom like this.
Terrible.
So I have certain personal information to know that guy's full of it.
Yeah,
right?
so you have context.
Right, I have context to know that's a lot different having been once a ripped athletic person and losing weight, getting back to the body you once kind of had versus someone who's always been overweight. And I know that just from a brain biochemistry thing is that overweight people's brains work different when it comes to hunger and food and taste response. So it's a disingenuous thing to say, here's someone who's overweight and now they're lean without knowing that one time they were lean because the whole brain chemistry is
all
different with somebody.
And you didn't, not knowing that.
Right. Right. So, but if you don't know that, then nothing's ever going to work out perfectly. So you're going to make mistakes along the way. Again, that's why you need humility because it's going to be a learning process. You're not going to be able to pick off every single con man or con woman who's out there.
Right.
You're not going to be able to discern between someone who really means well but doesn't know what they're talking about, particularly relative to you.
So because you don't have context?
Because you're not God, you're a human being. So you're not going to always get everything right. So there is going to be mistakes made along the way, and over time you'll get better. But there'll still people who will take you for a ride, no matter how much experience you think you have. But you get better over time. You figure it out. And let's go back to the other thing was context and nuance. That's the one thing people struggle terribly with. Someone came to me the other day and asked me about fasted cardio.
Which is doing cardio while you're fasting.
Right. You had no food in your stomach. And the idea is because you have no food in your stomach, because your blood sugar levels are low after sleeping all night or whatever, that you would go and work out and burn primarily fat and you'd lose weight. And this was a very hot thing in the 90s.
Which, by the way, you could burn fat or carbohydrates, but you got to burn calories.
Right. That's beautiful. What was weird about the timing about this was I found an old Lyle McDonald video. It was like an hour and 6 minutes long about fasted cardio. So it was like boom. It was like the universe was sending me a sign.
Right.
This person came and asked me this.
Right.
And I'm like, all right, here comes the context and nuance. Whenever I work with people who are overweight, fasted cardio, and this is almost I don't want to put words in his mouth because he's way more, I think the word's erudite than I am, Lyle McDonald. But whenever I work with people who are overweight, fasted cardio does absolutely nothing for them. Because there's so many other things that are at play that are more important whether or not you do fasted cardio, like actually being in a calorie deficit and actually accessing the stored muscle, sugar, and fat that you already have.
It'd be like having a car, engine's kind of shot,
right.
Doors are coming off,
right.
The axle's off,
yes.
The alignment's
right.
off, but you're worried about low air in the tires.
Right, or you're worried about getting new rims on the tires. Yeah. So it's like 50 guys out there right now in Plainsboro driving around Honda CRXs that are exactly like that,
yes.
right? So you know what I'm talking about.
I do. But the fasted cardio isn't the only thing for people.
Well, here's the deal,
overweight.
though. Then all of a sudden, I meet someone who's really lean, and they've covered every base they possibly could. And it was funny because as McDonald was doing this, he's like literally saying my reality in front of me. I'm like listening to him saying, I'm like, oh, yeah, he's right, because I've seen this and that. And all of a sudden, if somebody's really lean and all the bases are covered, the macronutrients are covered, the water intake is covered, they're getting enough sleep, their weight training, and really it's the macronutrients, the weight that are the most important thing, because as you get really lean, the sleep is going to go bye-bye unless you medicate that.
Which is macro, protein, fats, and carbs.
Right, protein, fats, and carbs.
Gotcha. For these people.
Right.
And me too. Right. Humility.
Awesome. There you go. If everything, hey, look, I'm not trying to steal the guy's stuff. That's humility right there. I'm not saying, oh, I came up with this idea. I literally watched this guy's video, and all I'm telling you is he was intellectually verifying what I had seen, but was putting it in words.
Yes.
So that's how you learn from people. So he says this, and sure enough, when someone's lean and all the bases are covered, is there birds in here?
It's my bird clock.
Oh, okay.
House wren.
I thought there was like a bird trapped in here.
House wren.
That may be the only thing that makes a difference in their fat loss is that fasted cardio because they've gotten all the other bases covered. So there's context and nuance. It's not that waste. And then all of a sudden, all these fit bros come out and these fit sisters.
Chicks.
I don't know what you call them, fit chicks. They come out and they're like, oh, I've already disproved that fasted cardio doesn't work. And I'm like, because you know what you're like? You're like the person who doesn't want Huckleberry Finn in the library because you don't understand context and nuance. Because, there's bad words in that book, but the words in that book help you understand a certain part of American history you can only understand by reading it in the genuine text. Not by going around and screaming terrible things to random people you don't know. I'm talking about context and nuance. And that was McDonald's point, and my experience was if you're really lean and all the bases are covered, you're at such a fine point. We talked about this asymptotic line. As you're at that fine point and you get closer and closer to your potential, it really isn't that much room for improvement.
Right.
So it may be fasted cardio, maybe that thing you need to do to take you to the next level. That's context and nuance. For example,
you have to know all the context about your situation.
Right. And then understand how the information applies to you, not just jump on the bandwagon and say it doesn't work. An example was the 6 meals a day thing. That became hot. All these stupid bodybuilders eat 6 meals a day.
Yeah.
What if you're
Metabolism.
what if you're eating a ton of protein?
Yeah.
You're going to digest that protein. You're going to eat like an entire half of a cow at one meal, or you're going to eat it spread throughout the day and digest it a little better. That's context and nuance. If you're the kind of person who needs to lose 40, 50 pounds, and you're just getting started and eating 6 times a day is going to slow you down and make a lifestyle impossibility, context and nuance. Then it's good. I even say in the book, I talk about cardio. Is cardio good for losing weight? Well, context and nuance. Are you a 120-pound woman or man, whatever you're a jockey, and you need to lose 5 or 10 pounds for whatever reason, and you can't cut your calories down anymore because you're 120 freaking pounds. You have no food left.
Or 220.
Right.
Context.
Right.
Which one is it?
Right. So if you have to lose a lot of weight and you're a small person, cardio may give you enough calories throughout the day so you can actually eat a decent diet and still be in a deficit. Right? So if you're only eating 1,200 calories a day and you need to cut calories out of your diet, what are you going to eat 900 calories a day?
Yeah,
Or you can add a little
shot.
extra cardio in, get your calories up to 1,500 a day and still cover all your nutritional bases. There it works. Another example, I had a big guy, had bad knees. He went to a trainer who tried to do all this corrective stuff with him, didn't work. This guy needed knee replacements.
Right.
You can't correct broken.
That's rough knee replacements.
Right. And someone said, well,
You can't correct broken.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't correct broken.
You can only sweep it up and then build something else. So what? Yeah, you break the vase instead of trying to put all the little pieces together. Sweep it up and get a new vase. Stop trying to put together the broken past.
You can repair.
You can repair if it's repairable, but sometimes it's not.
Sometimes it's not.
Right. So this guy had 2 knees that were shot. He had to get knee replacements. Would cardio be a great way for him to lose weight? Absolutely not. He could never do cardio. And this would be overweight beginners. It is functionally impossible for 99% of the overweight beginners to do cardio at a volume and intensity necessary enough to create enough of a calorie burn for them to lose weight. But in this guy's case, he couldn't even do it because of his knees. And someone said, why doesn't he swim? Well, there's from a family of Italian stonemasons.
Why doesn't he
Visualize
swim?
what
People
he
are
looks
saying
like.
that, yeah.
Because he goes in the pool and
He sinks.
right?
He
So now he's
sinks.
just spent 6 months learning how to swim with a body that's not built to swim.
Here's the crowd. What about an arm bike?
Right. Okay. Have you ever done an arm bike? There's a guy named Sisyphus in Greek mythology. Go look that up and tell me to go try the arm bike. All right. The bottom line is this guy could not use cardio as a viable form of exercise from personal likes and dislikes and physical capacity. So what's the best way to get him to lose weight? Is to not use cardio, but to use diet. And then once his knees got replaced, then he could use cardio in a moderate amount mainly for health, but not diet. So again, is cardio good or bad? Tell me the context, tell me the nuance, and then I can give you an answer from there. That's why it's so hard and this is why there's a priest who once said this in a speech, and I can't remember his name to save his life, and I give him credit, but he said, they said to him, should Catholics be poor? And he said, well, if Catholics are poor, then all the money is going to be taken up by the idolaters and the pornographers and all that stuff. I'm not getting trust me, I'm not getting a morality speech on anyone, but his point's well taken, right? It's in the fitness world, there are all these people who don't understand context, who don't understand nuance. They only understand zealotry. And people like zealotry because it's quick, it's easy, it's fast to blame the other instead of
That's
looking.
what zealotry is?
Well, it's one of the aspects of it. Zealotry always says the enemy is without, not from within. Right? If you look at that picture of you, look where the light is on Christ's chest. It's within, from the inside out.
There's an old, Les Brown said there's an old African proverb that says if there's no enemy within, the enemy outside can do us no harm.
Right, exactly. So if you look at that, it's the whole idea of, one of the things is it's always, the bottom line is zealots are very clear and simple, not in the way we're clear and simple. We're saying you start off clear and simple and then work to complex. They're saying
Synthesize.
simple.
The whole time.
Right.
You can't simplify everything.
Right, you can't simplify everything, right? So,
But how do you, I need your help. The people need your help. We're talking about the struggle of not having context. But the whole internet and the whole Instagram, you go on Instagram, there's no context for anything.
Right.
So how do you pull gems? How do you get stuff? Do you take stuff seriously if you don't have context? How do you know to take stuff seriously when you don't have context?
It's kind of the reason why are you and I doing this right now. And someone had said this to me once. They said, there's so much money in these simple answers, these quick fixes, these late night things. Why do you even bother doing what you're doing? And I'll tell you why I bother what I'm doing, because it gives my life purpose and meaning. If you think life is about happiness, good luck with that when something terrible happens to you. Because if life is all about happiness, when I was standing over my father's dead body in that coffin, what are you going to do now? Where'd your happiness go then?
So you have to find fulfillment after that?
You have to have some kind of fulfillment and meaning in your life. And if you get happiness every now and then, fantastic. That's awesome, right? But the reality is that we do what we do because we understand on some level someone out there is watching us and it's going to sink in. Do I ever think that Jay Frios and Mike Cruickshanks of the world or the Lyle McDonalds, wherever these people are who are expressing this information people need to hear, Lane Norton is another guy right there. If you're watching the Jay Frio podcast, you just got two people right there you should be paying attention to, right? Lane Norton and Lyle McDonald. Why we do what we do is because we know on some level, if we put that out there, it's going to sink into someone's head. I said this about the whole Will Smith. I had a client said to me, they wanted to talk to their son about gaining muscular body weight. And I said, look, this is an uphill battle. The odds are he's probably not going to listen to anything I have to say. But if just one little nugget gets in his head, one little thing sinks in there, it could be everything that makes the difference. I think the problem is people want all the lights to turn green before they start on the road trip. Without understanding it is a process, because it can't be, because it's such an individual response. So what I'm saying is, you're going to meet people who are going to give you the wrong information. You're going to make mistakes on your own or not. You're a human being. This is what you do. But what you do is you take a conscious understanding of who you are, what is working, what isn't working. And when you find guys like Jay Frio, Mike Cruickshank, all these people who are sitting here, they're trying to tell you really what you need to hear, good, then milk it for all it's worth. Take what I say and then go find someone else. Your own experience will help you. But in the beginning, I understand the conflict here. You only know what you know. And the voice out there is so loud.
So loud.
Right.
So many of them.
Right. It's so loud, and it's so debased to the most. I think someone had posted the other day, how do you become successful in the fitness industry? If your guy have big arms, this was actually Lyle McDonald too. If your guy have big arms and if your woman have a big butt.
That's
right?
so true.
So but that does not stop me from doing what I'm doing. And if you understand this is a process, if you just understand this is a process, and you understand that sexy fitness person on Instagram is not you, if you accept that's not you.
That's not you.
Right. If you accept that and you start doing things they're doing and they're not working, then you know that's the one part from them you've diverged and you've got to move on to something else.
Try something
else.
else.
So if you just understand that general rules, I am who I am, and the general rule to her applies the same as to you, you can start filtering, but then that's where the humility comes in. You have to understand this is a process, that it's going to take time to figure things out. Here are some starting points. I do that in the book. I have 50 examples of strategies people can use to try and figure out whether they work for them or not.
Wow, what's one of them?
That strategy could have been 50,000. So one of them was I had a client who used Wassa crackers for sandwich bread. That's all he changed.
What are Wassa crackers?
Why are they're like these little thin bread crackers. Okay. So they're like little pieces of bread. They're thin. Wassa, W-A-S-A.
Oh.
And by replacing regular bread with Wassa crackers, because he had sandwiches every day, it made a difference. One of the many things that made a difference in his diet, right? Sunkist diet orange soda. Right, I talk about this. You got to find your own personal Sunkist diet orange soda. How do you do that? Well, I'm telling you about Sunkist diet orange soda. So why don't you go drink that and find out whether you like it too?
And then if you don't, you discard it and move on.
Right. So the whole thing is all examples of that. It's I found Applegate chicken Italian sausage one day. I found it was a good, easy, quick, pre-cooked, which I only had to reheat in a pan, protein that worked for me.
quick.
I'm trying to think of all the different examples I
Easy.
should have brought in here. The next time we come here, we're going to really pimp the book.
That's
I'm just
right.
going to read right out of it.
That's right. I can't wait for the book.
Either can I.
I'm so
here's the
excited.
status on it. So
I'm
I
so
sent
excited.
you never send books to publishers. They don't respond.
Okay.
What I did was I found a list of 37 different nonfiction literary agents.
Okay.
I found that 22 of them were in my genre.
Okay.
And then 16 of them were people I actually sent emails out to because they were taking on clients. So I'm going to wait till August 1st. Typically, the wait time is about 6 to 8 weeks. I'm going to wait till August 1st. If I don't hear back from any of those literary agents, then I'm going to self-publish the book. You have to go through the literary agent because no publishing company can keep up with the massive amounts of submissions that are given to them. The
Makes
literary
sense.
agent acts as a vetting process, which then goes to the publisher and says, hey, this book might be something you want to look into. So when that comes out, I'll
6
talk
to 8
all about
weeks
it.
waiting period.
Right. So I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Is anything that makes my day work? Egg whites over hash browns. That's a perfect thing I discovered one day. Is that if I use egg whites instead of whole eggs, I keep the fat down so I can use a little bit more oil on the hash browns so they don't come out a dried out, disgusting mess.
What have you tried that isn't my Cruickshank approved?
That hasn't
For
worked.
breakfast, yeah, that just no way. You've tried it, just no way.
Ezekiel bread.
Oh, good name.
Some
Ezekiel.
people.
You remember Ezekiel?
Oh, I remember Ezekiel. Some people love. Yeah, the trainer.
Yeah, the
He's
trainer.
a great guy.
Nice
He's
beard.
like a couple kids now. I think
Yeah,
he is.
yeah.
He I'm thinking about Ezekiel. Great storyteller.
Yeah, Rivera?
Yeah, yeah.
Is it?
I think that's what it was. I just remember he was Ezekiel. That's all I remember.
I think it was Rivera. I don't know.
We'll look him up afterwards.
If it's not
We'll Google him.
That's not a
Yeah,
general.
but the guy had a great beard.
Great beard.
That is undeniable. The bottom line
Ezekiel
is
bread didn't
Ezekiel
work.
bread, I hate it. In fact, Ezekiel bread has a prayer on the outside of the package, which I had to say every time before I ate it because I found it so disgusting. And someone's like, "Well, that's what they ate at Masada when they fought the Romans." And I'm like, they all committed suicide, right? Maybe because all they had to eat was sprouted bread. I don't know if it was maybe they knew they were going to die from the Romans, but I think this bread had something to do with it.
nothing on it.
Well, there's people who swear by Ezekiel bread, and
Yeah.
they go to McCaffrey's and it's in that special freezer with the prayer on front of it.
Yeah,
It's like
different colors.
yeah, and it's got different colors,
Green.
yellow, orange.
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't work for me. Hate it. Don't like it.
Yeah.
Cottage cheese. I don't like cottage cheese. It go through all my little idiosyncrasies. I don't like peas. I have a client from England who loves mushy peas.
Ugh.
And if you say, you say mushy peas to someone from England and they're like, oh, mushy peas, right? They get all excited. Again, so you find these things over and over again.
What do you do when everything in you wants to make Ezekiel bread work? Now, that's just an example, but we're talking about maybe Instagram. I want to be the guy that, can do this, that. I tried it. It doesn't work for me, but it's so bad. I want to be that guy.
Shank's, I'm talking in the third person here. Shank's really good at pruning the tree. He's very good at cutting things out once he figures they don't work. I'll give you another example. I like making whole wheat regular bread toast with a little bit of jam. I don't like jam. I like jelly, right? I discovered. Okay, so one day I bought a bottle of jam. It was disgusting. Grape jam.
What's the difference?
It's just grape jam's disgusting and grape jelly is not. That's the difference. Jam just tastes like it's all like concentrated, like
Paste.
Paste, yeah. Right? So that's another example. So what did I do? I learned a lesson. I threw out a $3 bottle of jam. Was the path perfect and clear? No. It required a learning process from something as simple as whether I put jelly or jam on my toast.
Yeah.
Right? So I found out if I buy whole wheat bread and it'd get all stiff and stale and gross. And someone said, but dude, just throw it in the freezer. And when you toast it, it's no different than when it's fresh. That's the power of baked products.
Yeah, that's
How
a
did I
great
discover
tip.
that? I discovered that because the most wonderful creation on earth. I say this all the time. Ben Franklin said that beer is proof that God loves mankind. I say this about Snickers ice cream bars. I also say this about baby cakes from Olive's Bakery in Princeton. Baby cakes, chocolate chip baby cakes from Olive's are proof that God loves humankind. And someone gave me a gift card. I was like, I'm going to buy all the baby cakes. I'm not going to eat all these fast enough. And the woman, Katerina, who runs Olive, said, well, just wrap them up in plastic and freeze them. And then you put them on the counter the day before. They defrost and they taste as good as when they were fresh. Wow. Right? So I learned about whole wheat bread from the baby cakes, two exact opposite things in my weight loss journey. Mm-hmm. So I just put the bread in the freezer and I toast it and it tastes no different than
it's the same.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you learn the process. Maybe that's another thing is that I said it's right. It's not all going to be perfect from the very get-go.
No.
So there is going to be a learning process.
So the pruning process isn't even perfect.
No. And I think I had a client once yell at me and he said, just tell me what to eat. And I was like, the problem is tell me in any aspect of life that you can do something just by being told what to do. right? So one of the things Devin said yesterday, and it's making my toes curl thinking about this. She said yesterday in our interview on the podcast that we did.
Is it up yet?
Devin Peterson, yeah, it's up. Oh no, it's up. Yeah, this is not like you where there's amazing production values.
What was it about?
It was called making you. It was about establishing realistic goals in fitness.
Okay.
And one of the things Devin said that she does is she literally looks at the diet the client is already eating. This was brilliant. She looks at the diet they're already eating, and then understands what the protein needs are, what the fiber needs are, again to keep them full on less calories, and then she kind of works within the frame of what they're already eating. So that's where the Wassa crackers came from. The guy I was training with, he already was eating sandwiches. All we had to do was replace the bread with the Wassa crackers, right? And that was one little aspect. He was eating pretzels for snacks, and all he did was, I can't remember what he replaced that with. I think it wasn't baby carrots because that'll just crush your soul if you have pretzels to baby carrots. But again, he worked within something he was already doing, and Devin said she just manipulates little things to help them get them into that enough protein, enough fiber, calorie control. She doesn't go
reconstructing it.
Well, here's the thing then. Then she said later in the interview, she said, what do you believe that using a slow approach to weight loss is best? All of a sudden we're like, wait a second. What about context and nuance? What if you're the kind of person who loves Steppenwolf? What if you're all about firing all your guns at once and exploding into space? Then all of a sudden you are the kind of person that losing all the weight at once works.
Right.
And all of a sudden I'm violating my own rule. If I say yes, slower weight loss works best for everyone, I'm violating the rule of context and nuance myself.
Right.
Some people shotgunning, losing all the weight at once, completely ripping up the diet and doing something different is what works for them. The problem in the fitness industry is we never see them. Right.
Never.
No one with six-pack abs is going to be watching the latest training video on how to build abs by some fit bro because they already have them, right?
Right. So they're not the audience.
Usually the people trying to manipulate the little details tend to be the people who don't have the genetics to be that great in the first place. And they're thinking, just get this little detail right.
Last thing.
Right. I could be the next Herschel Walker, right?
Yeah,
and you're not going to be. That's a little dated. You're not going to be the next, whoever the famous.
Yeah, running back, right?
Running back, yeah, but I'm going back in time.
Yeah.
Whoever the famous guy is nowadays, you're never going to be him just because you ran sprints up a hill.
You can say Deion Sanders.
Deion Sanders, right? Yeah. But even that's a little dated. Deion Sanders actually ran sprints up a hill. The bottom line is, no, for some people, using a slow approach works really well. I would say, and I said this yesterday, 90% of the people that I meet do better off a slow approach. But that's because 100% of the people who work well off a shotgun approach, I never see them. Or they're already got their diet down, so we never even discuss what got them there in the first place, which is kind of a mistake because we learn from them. So yeah, it's all about context and nuance and being able to identify the individual and understanding that it's a learning process and mistakes are going to be made along the way. And the bottom line is, if you focus on what you're going to focus on, if you understand yourself, what was that saying? He who beats his enemy wins once. He who understands himself, I don't know. It's
wins
a little late.
Forever.
Right, wins forever. And that's the bottom line here is if you understand yourself, you can start doing a better job of filtering out that information. I'm not saying it's absolute. That's why guys like you and I got to exist to kind of help people nudge them the right way. Right, nudge them right. Push them the right way.
You're an exercise shaman.
Thank you very much.
Now, let me ask you. 100 out of 100%, give me a percentile of when something comes into Shank's life.
Right.
What percentage gets pruned off because it doesn't work for you as a person, and what percentage sticks because it works with you as a person? That's very hard to give a percentage, but
I'm by my very nature stodgy and dismissive and critical. I remember one time I was talking to my client Josh Zender, and I said to him, we were talking about something random about the synagogue, and I said, I don't want to judge, and he stopped me and he said, "You're Jewish. You always judge." Right? So I'm very judgmental. That's why it works well for me. And so probably not very much stuff ever gets in. And it was probably one of my biggest weaknesses because not a lot of stuff gets in, right? You can see that throughout history. The cultures that are most closed off are the ones that tend. That's why I always found the concept of the Black Panther movie silly. Because they lived in this isolated bubble, and yet somehow they were incredibly developed, where every single historical model tells us that cultures that live in isolations never grow and develop.
Right.
So it was kind of a weird, right? It's kind of weird because it's the interaction and the trade that actually makes societies develop.
So do you live in your bubble?
And unfortunately, sometimes I do, and that comes at a cost. And it comes at a cost. It's
because I do too.
Right. You don't want your mind so open that your brains fall out. But sometimes my philosophy of bad things happen once you leave New Jersey has come to bite me in the butt every now and then, as evidenced by the first time I ever had Chicago pizza. right? My whole life I was missing that.
Wait, what was that New Jersey quote?
I took that from Charlie Day. He one time said on Always Sunny in Philadelphia, they were trying to get him to leave. He goes, "Bad things happen when you leave Philadelphia, man." And I'm just like, he's so right. For me, bad things happen when I leave New Jersey.
Dude, that's me.
Right. That's quote. It was this one thing where they never got out of Philadelphia, which was the funny thing about the episode. And I never got out of New Jersey. So
wow.
So,
but outside of that,
right? So it's an upset. Again, here's another thing. There's no such thing as right or wrong in terms of these stuff. Okay, maybe I should say that. There's no such thing as ideal and complete piece of garbage. It's always trade-offs. So my trade-off is I have a mind that doesn't let a lot of things in, so I don't get filled with a ton of nonsense. I also have a mind that doesn't let a lot of things in, so I end up shooting myself in the foot sometimes by losing opportunities that are made available to me. It took 23 years for me to write a book as a personal trainer, right? That's an example of my closed mind not looking to see. Coming here with you and opening myself up to this shows me how fun, effective, and simple doing a podcast and a video can be.
It's very fun.
But, if I was too open-minded, I would be spending $50,000 on audio equipment I don't need.
Right.
And if I was too closed-minded, I'd never be here with you right now, which has been an awesome, life-changing thing for me and for the people who watch these videos, hopefully, right? And for you.
Yeah. Would you meet in the middle? You trying to meet?
But that's
in the
not
middle?
me. That's the problem.
You're not a middle guy.
Right. I told you last time. You put 100 people in a room. All right. 100 people in a room. I'm more neurotic than 98 of them.
98.
You put 100 people in a room. I'm more reactive than 98 of them. Wouldn't it be nice if I could go out in public and be calm? Wouldn't it be nice if I could hear someone else's opinion and not judge it? Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't it be nice if the first thing that happens whenever I go to a party is I look for the dog? Wouldn't it be nice if I was looking for the other people? No. I go in the party, I'm like, is there a dog here? Okay, let's set a clock, watch and see how long we're going to be here. Wow. Wouldn't it be nice if that was who I was?
It ain't.
But it's not who I am. So stop wasting time. No, look, if you're a psychopath, then you got to bury that stuff down. But if that's not who I am, why am I wasting? Right? You know what I'm saying? If who you are is you go around killing people, you got. I'm not talking about that, right?
Yeah, most other people.
Right. So, but for everyone else who's within the realm of normalcy, right? Yeah. Let's finish up with this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give him a plug because I like him. If Joe is a great manager of his own facility, then that's what Joe needs to go do. And he needs to go be the best Ludus perform. Is that how I say it?
Ludus
Ludin's the throat drop. Ludus is his company. Ludus perform. He has to go out and do the best he can possibly with that.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not a manager of people. I'm not a facility runner. I don't want to deal with all that stuff.
Right.
So what I will go do is I'll do my job the best I possibly can.
Yeah.
And wouldn't it be nice if we could be all the things that we thought, first off, everyone you think is perfect, by the way, is a tortured, miserable soul. You just don't see it. And Instagram and Facebook kind of don't let us know that.
You don't ever see it.
Right. We don't ever see the human part of the human being.
Nope.
But
go and do that.
Right. Go understand, learn that, and then go and look, yes, I'm closed-minded. Yes, it hurts me sometimes, but sometimes it helps me. And that's just my life. That is to go back to it, that's my cross to bear. That's what I'm going to carry around with the rest of my life. And I'm going to try to make the best out of it. I don't like to cook. If I could cook, would I be ripped and awesome? Probably. But that's not who I am.
That's not who you are.
So I got to make the best of what I have and deal with the fact that no one is God. Everything is not going to turn out perfectly. And you're just going to do the best we got. And that mistakes are going to be made the way, and you're going to be taken advantage of sometimes. And you go out and you find people like us who have no vested interest in selling you, and not until the book comes out, not until selling you anything, and try to learn from them. And that's really, I think, the big thing we take away from here today is the context and nuance, understand the application of the individual, understand, like I say in the book, let's finish out with this. I got 30 seconds?
Yep.
5 steps in my book. If you understand this, you don't even have to read the book, but buy it anyway because I want to buy a bigger house for my dogs.
Please do.
Number 1, go see your doctor. Dead people don't lose weight, they decompose. Number 2, multiply your current body weight times 10. Some people need a little more, some people need a less. But multiply your body weight times 10, eat that many calories a day, that'll be your baseline.
Got it.
Number 3, keep doing that till you drop 10% of your body weight. Number 4, stop for 1 week to a month at maintenance calories, which is current body weight times 15. Some people need more, some people need a little less. That's context and nuance. Do that for 1 week to a month. Learn how to do maintenance. Americans don't have a weight loss problem. They have a weight maintenance problem. And number 5, reassess. If you understand those 5 things, you understand my book because everything else is context and nuance. It has those 5 principles apply to you as an individual.
What's the name of your book coming out?
It's called The 10% Solution for Permanent Weight Loss.
Wait.
I got goosebumps on the thighs. Look at that.
Mike Cruickshank, round 2.
Wow, look at that.
Look at that.
That's visceral
Look at
right
that.
there.
That's visceral.
That's right. Even the body hair can't hide it. All right, that's it.
Pound it, my man.
Right there. Jay Frio.
Love right here.
Don't you people love Jay Frio and his interview skills?
Shank,
That's right.
amazing.
Boom. Donahue,
Done.
Cavett, Oprah.